Scream 7 proves who the real franchise MVP is. Warning spoilers ahead for Scream 7. Neve Campbell will always be the face of the Scream franchise for her portrayal of Sidney Prescott, but Scream 7 shows why Courtney Cox Gale Weathers deserves the label as franchise MVP. Sidney is still the franchise's core final girl and the protagonist who started it all 3 decades ago. With that being said, Gale is just as important to the Scream movies, and the same goes for Courtney Cox. Not only does Gale help connect the different eras of the franchise, especially with the bridge between Scream 6 and Scream 7, but the character is also responsible for some of the franchise's most memorable aspects. It's no surprise that Gale stars in some of Scream 7's best scenes, especially when interacting with other returning characters like Sidney. She's always been an iconic figure in the horror genre, so it makes sense that Gale Weathers and her relentless persona don't miss a beat in Scream 7. It wouldn't be a Scream movie without Ghostface, and though the character or characters behind the mask are different with each movie, the voice behind the character has remained the same. Roger L. Jackson has served as the voice of Ghostface for all 7 Scream movies since the original in 1996. Granted, only one person has directly appeared in every Scream movie to date, Courtney Cox. Whereas Jackson carries out his role without any on-screen appearances, Cox is the only cast member in the Scream franchise whose character Gale Weathers appears in every movie. What's more, Cox holds the record as the only actor to appear in 7 consecutive movies within the same horror franchise. Cox took the record in Scream 6, the first movie not to include Campbell as Sidney, and then extended the streak with Gale's return in Scream 7. Here's how the total movies stand for actors and characters. Actor Scream character of Scream movies Roger L. Jackson Ghostface voice 7 Courtney Cox Gale Weathers 7 Neve Prescott 6 David Arquette Dewey Riley 6 AI in Scream 7 Mason Gooding Chad Meeks Martin 3 Jasmine Savoy Brown Mindy Meeks Martin 3 Skeet Ulrich Billy Loomis 3 Sam's Manifestation in Scream 5 6 Jamie Kennedy Randy Meeks 3 Video footage in Scream 3 Liev Schreiber Cotton Weary 3 Cameo in Scream 1 Following Cox record. Campbell and David Arquette have the second most Scream appearances, though Dewey only has a brief AI-generated role in Scream 7. There are then a handful of actors and characters who have appeared in 3 movies, but from that group, only Chad and Mindy Meeks Martin are still alive. Based on their role in Scream 7, it's very likely that Mason Gooding and Jasmine Savoy Brown could return in future movies, increasing their franchise movie totals. Scream 8's story could also see the twins continuing to work for Gale, paving the way for all 3 return for more standout sequences. For much of Scream 7's first act, Gale is nowhere to be found. When Courtney Cox does show up, however, it makes for one hell of an entrance for Gale Weathers. In fact, she gets a kill of her own before even officially reuniting with Sidney in the latest sequel. After Sidney and Tatum escape from their home's safe room, they attempt to help Mark fight off Ghostface on the front lawn. As the conflict spills out into the street, a car saves them by striking Ghostface, and the driver of the SUV is none other than Gale with her new assistants Chad and Mindy. Scream movies don't often kill off Ghostface this early in the story, but it's a fun twist that Gale takes down one of the villains before even setting foot in Pine Grove. As always, Gale is drawn toward the chaos, putting herself right in Ghostface's crosshairs, something that she has done for 5 of the 7 movies. In Scream 4 and Scream 6, she was conveniently already in the location of the attacks. Of course, Carl Gibbs is just one of 3 characters who play Ghostface in Scream 7. Being Gale, she knows exactly what she's getting herself into by teaming up with Sidney to figure out who is working with Carl. If it weren't for Sidney keeping her out of the action due to the injury she sustained in the New York City attacks, Gale would have surely been by Sidney and Tatum's side during Scream 7's ending. Gale's investigation into Maureen Prescott's murder stirred up a lot of the conflict seen in the first Scream, leading to her own involvement during Billy and Stu's Ghostface attack. Her book about the Woodsboro killings then spawned the Stab movie franchise, which has remained relevant throughout the franchise and even motivated a few of the later killers. Scream 7 cleverly uses Easter eggs to call back to previous movies, rewarding longtime fans with subtle plot points and thrilling references. As time has gone on, Gale and Sidney's complicated relationship transformed into a trusted friendship, as shown in Scream 7. While she may have softened a bit when it comes to Sidney, Gale is still as cutthroat as ever, willing to put her life on the line. Thankfully, the franchise understands her continued importance and hasn't turned her into a caricature of herself. Instead, Scream 7 leaves fans wanting more of Gale, not less. Courtney Cox left the door open for returning for Scream 8, which makes sense since Gale survives the 2026 sequel. Perhaps Cox can extend her record, appearing in 8 consecutive movies in the same horror franchise. Either way, it would be exciting to see Cox get a larger role in a future entry, as a proper lead. If not using Gale as the main character, giving her co-lead status alongside Sydney before the franchise completely passes the torch to Tatum could be a fitting way to close out their respective arcs. Pivoting back to Sydney's story in Scream 7 gives the franchise even more of a reason to incorporate Gale in a future movie.